Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule of the Galaxy fans. You're not seeing somebody new if you're watching on YouTube right now. You're seeing Joe. The sunglasses tonight are in honor of Mr. Steve Glosson. But welcome to another episode of Rule of the Galaxy, chapter 118. We do have a special guest tonight, and we've got so much to talk about. But as always, feel free to follow us at Rule of the Galaxy SW on Twitter, Rule of the Galaxy SW at gmail.com. Just Rule the Galaxy on Facebook and on YouTube. We've been getting a lot more followers and subscribers, everything on YouTube. Thank you for doing that. Hopefully you're watching them when you're not driving, because I've heard people doing that. So, be safe while you're out there driving. Listen to us in the car, watch us when you're at home. But we're back, 118 episodes, Rule the Galaxy. And I'll give a quick little shout out. Yes, for those of you watching on YouTube right now, I'm wearing my Luke Skywalker X-Wing Diff eyewear Star Wars sunglasses. They are yellow and white. I'll admit, my wife has told me I look like somebody from the 70s. My son said I look like a 70s porn coach. I don't know what that's all about. We've got Alfie telling me I look like Elton John, but you know what? They're Star Wars. They're after Luke Skywalker, and I'm going to wear them in honor of Steve Glosson tonight. But enough of me, because I've got a terrible voice. Let's get rolling around to all of our great co-hosts. We've got three of our regular co-hosts and then one special guest. And I'll just whip it around the room. We'll start with D-Doc. How are you doing tonight, D-Doc?
I'm doing good. Had a very long day of work today. A lot of madness happening, but I mean, I watched this episode of Boba Fett twice last night, actually, like rapid fire. I watched it. My buddies were like, "You want to play Xbox?" I'm like, "Sure." Played 2 games of Call of Duty. He's like, My buddy's like, "I'm gonna watch it again. You want a group watch?" He's like, "I know you just watched it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll watch it again." So, yeah, I'm hyped to talk about this episode.
Well, I'm hyped that you're here. And I tell you what, you've been having a good week or two of Twitter and TikTok and everything else going on. I've been really excited to see all the new followers, not only Star Wars stuff, but all the other things you do on the side with plumbing and house, redoing and all that kind of stuff. So really cool stuff going on. So really, really happy for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you're rocking the new gear tonight, the new mic and headphones, right?
Yeah, I think it's working. I'm still using my wife's work computer.
No,
I need to get a computer for myself at one point here. I edit everything on my cell phone, but I'm getting there.
you got
I
it.
work with
No,
what I have.
it looks great. Looks great. Hey, we'll switch around. We'll go to Mr. Nick Shesky, who I think I was just told today I'm going to see him in a party like a week or so from now. So I'm hoping that's what I was told in a text message. So always a good time when I can get together with Mr. Nick Shesky. Welcome back, Nick. How are you?
Joe, that's the best news that I've heard in a while. That is really exciting. I didn't know that. Fantastic. Well, hey, I'm glad somebody else is scheduling our lives and they're working out together. I'm doing great. Glad to be on tonight. Very excited to talk Book of Boba Fett. Was bummed to miss last week when we talked about it. But I was joking with our guest tonight. I had to go see Spider-Man No Way Home before we jumped on tonight because I knew if I was the only person in this crew that hadn't seen it, I'd be in trouble. So I'm
Well,
doing great. Ready for a great
good.
show.
I now Alfie and I have seen it. I know Adam's seen it. D Doc has not. He's going to see it when tomorrow. D Doc.
Yeah, that's the plan. But I gotta say, Twitter has been very respectful. I have not seen any spoilers for this movie, and I'm like, I was so nervous about it. I'm like, I'm gonna see something eventually, and people really haven't been posting them. So
Shockingly respectful. Like
Good.
I was nervous too. We were going to go see it the first week it came out. And then I have a kid and life changed and things happened. And man, I couldn't be more surprised going tonight. And I did, like, if you're watching on YouTube, I did this face like 4 or 5 times and it was awesome. It was good to not have it spoiled.
It was good. It was good. And we're glad you're back. And I know before the show, you and I were talking, and we'll talk about it more before we start in the Book of Boba Fett talk, but you've started into Fallen Star by Claudia Gray and the High Republic. That's the last one I've got to read, and I'm going to start it soon. But so far, you said it's going pretty good. So that's exciting. The end of phase 1 of High Republic. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
So
cool.
far, so good. I'm about an hour and a half into it and I've enjoyed it so far. I feel like when we first started High Republic, these were not characters that I was like in love with, probably because they were new, but now I
Mhm.
feel pumped and excited. Like when I hear, uh, the Wookiee that they bring in, you're like, oh, I know him from previous books. Like
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's building some affinity.
Buriaga, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we've got my cousin, one of my other cousins, Nick's my cousin as well, but my cousin Alfie Molinaro is hopping on here with us. And of course, during the Book of Boba Fett thing, it's all about Alfie because the Book of Alfie and the Mandalorians and Boba Fett. But this is something I picked up last week with Alfie, the Casca Reeves Black 6-inch series. We were out doing some Star Wars shopping. I grabbed that with him. He's already been posting on Twitter some of the items he purchased last week, and they're already open, right, Alfie?
That's right. They didn't last long. Nothing lasts long in this house. That shore trooper I found, I had to hide that just so it won't get opened.
Oh yeah, that was the carbonized shore
Yes.
trooper. Oh yeah,
Vintage collection, yeah.
yeah, that was good stuff. Good stuff. You doing okay? Other than that, everybody. Well, you got a birthday party coming up tomorrow, right? For Azalea.
Yes, that's right. That's why I had to switch rooms real quick. My wife's blowing up balloons, so in the kitchens. But yeah, we're getting into party mode.
Good, good. She'll be turning 3, right?
Right.
Rock on. And for those of you who watch us on YouTube, you've seen Azalea pop into the screen. She is the biggest Star Wars fan I've ever seen at 3 years old. Hey, last but not least, our special guest who we love having on, and this guy always brings a great perspective to us. And he's right now showing some of his great Marvel and Spider-Man stuff behind him. The author, the Marvel and Star Wars author, Adam Bray. Adam, welcome back to Rule the Galaxy.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
No worries, no worries. How cold is it in Michigan right now?
Tonight I think it's supposed to get down to 1 degree.
Joe, he's wearing a beanie indoors. It's that cold.
Yeah, it is that cold. I normally don't spend much time in this room during the winter. I haven't been in here since maybe August. So I just come in to do the podcast because this part of the house just gets uncomfortably cold.
Well, good to know, and we'll try to rush you through so you don't get frostbite or anything out there. What has been keeping you busy in Star Wars and Marvel and anything you're doing? What's been keeping you busy since last we spoke?
Well, this time of year around the holidays, it's when I traditionally do book signings at my local movie theaters. So fortunately, there's always, well, lately Marvel movies making premieres. We haven't had any Star Wars in a while and probably won't for quite some time. So it's the Marvel movies that keep me going and just fun. I do these 4-day weekends. I go in when the movie theater opens and I stay till the last showing and just sit there all day for like 4 days in a row. And, often I'll see a movie at the end of the day. And it's just kind of my holiday tradition, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's.
Awesome. Hey, you know what? It keeps you busy. I'm sure you get to interact with a lot of fans and sell some of your books and things like that. So that sounds really good. Like I said, I want to buzz through some really quick things that went on or going on in the Star Wars universe real quick, or things that I've heard. And then we'll just jump right into, head first, right into the Book of Boba Fett. One, as we mentioned, I think everybody out there who's giving High Republic a shot is excited because the end of phase 1, like we talked about, The Fallen Star with Claudia Gray as the author, that came out this week and seems to be doing very well. And I guess we're going to have some shockers in there, some, who's going to make it through this and who's not. And but so far I've enjoyed the books. It's not like it's the original trilogy bringing the end of Star Wars, but it's in the Star Wars universe. They're tying some things in, and overall, I would say I've enjoyed them. And let's see where it goes. Besides Nick, have any of the rest of you been reading any of the High Republic? Alfie?
I read the first 3 books.
Okay, gotcha.
Let me take that back. I did not read the books. I listened to them.
There we go.
And I did not care for them at all. But like I've mentioned before, I cannot listen to things. So I'm bought physical copies. I'm going to try to give them a fair shot.
Okay. That's
they are narrated by our very own Mark Thompson, who does a fantastic job, Mark. And I've seen it on Twitter, and the next time he's on here, I got to ask him about it as well too. This isn't a spoiler by any means, but the enunciation of Marchion Row has been changed to Marchion Ro.
Yes.
And I want to know, did you do that on purpose? Was that something that you just decided, I don't like saying Marchion anymore, I'm going to be more cultured than that, and I'm going to say it the way that it was supposed to be? I have a lot of questions for him next time he's on.
You know, you mentioned that today. I took a moment and I listened to the 1-year anniversary of the High Republic on StarWars.com. They did their live, their show, and it was now on YouTube. And they were saying Marchion Ro, and I thought, wait a minute, that's different, because they were saying Marchion Ro. So you're exactly right. Good question to ask. We'll see where that goes. But I do like some of those Bel Zettifar, Stellan Geos, Avar Chris. They've got some good
Elzar Man.
Yeah, they've got some great characters in there. So let's see where this goes. We'll give it a shot. Another thing that I saw, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, and it was bouncing around Twitter, is Qi'ra going to get her own series? Have you guys seen this? Alfie, I'll let you go with that.
Okay. I'm not saying that she's not, and I'm not saying there's not any possibility, because I think it's a pretty strong possibility that she's going to come back. Why wouldn't she? She's a great character. There's a real, following on Twitter and social media for a Make Solo 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the originator of this, I did the work today. Where this rumor is coming from, that user has been banned from almost every Marvel sub on Reddit because of spreading disinformation.
Well, lovely.
Yeah.
Alfie, I don't know enough about Reddit, but if you're getting banned on Reddit, that's a pretty, like, you don't know what you're talking about. If that's
you've been
correct.
told enough times to please stop.
Wow.
Posting here.
Okay. I guess I just take it really, simple. I guess I'm one of those, I'm easy to do the clickbait, right? They just get the hook and they just take me along.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, Qi'ra, let's see what this is about. And
it's a rumor that makes a lot of sense right now. You have 3 comic book series that are basically leading into this Book of Boba Fett series, and she plays a major part in it. So
okay.
Solo 2, Criminal Underworld, Boba Fett, it all makes sense.
Good.
Just
I'll tell
a
you
bummer.
something that's disappointing about all that potentially is the way publishing works for Star Wars is that you're only allowed to make up new stories about material that they know for certain that they're not going to cover in movies or TV shows, live action or animation or anything of that matter. So the more they block out her character in these comic books or anything else, that means there's no plans to do anything with the actress for at least for that window in the timeline. So it makes the chances less and less likely of a Solo spinoff with her in it.
Oh, Adam, that is so depressing. Is that, I did not know that was true. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, my mind is blown right now. That's something else. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
The problem is they don't want to box the directors and the TV and movie people into a corner. On the other hand, I'm not sure they would feel like they're boxed in a corner. I think they would just steamroller over anything in publishing rather than lose opportunities for stories. But then on the other flip side of that is the publishing people and Story Group don't want to have to undo everything they've been doing. So they just kind of enact this.
Lots of layers. I mean, you can only imagine. We're fans, and we have all these thoughts and ideas. Think about the people who get paid to do this, and where they've got to go, and the hoops they've got to jump through to get it done up. So, D-Doc, did you have something to say? I just saw you.
I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday, and I saw a picture of Qi'ra, and I scrolled past it so quick. I'm like, she better not be in that episode tonight. I was thinking about it all day. I was like, did I just spoil something for myself? But yeah, no. Once again, like I said with Spider-Man and with Star Wars, no one's been saying anything. Everyone's been great. So
good.
I'd love to see her back though.
Good. Well, I don't dabble into this rumor mill kind of thing too much because I get burnt too much, and I usually rely on Alfie for this. But I when I was posting one of our YouTube shows up, and I saw something that said, similar to yours or whatever. It was Star Wars Meg on YouTube. And I was like, oh, I'll go check this out. I mean, what do I have to lose, right? And then she was talking about 2022 with Star Wars. She is saying this Star Wars Meg, so I'll give credit there on YouTube, that Andor is 12 episodes, but Andor season 3 will start filming in 2022 because they're thinking of taking the first 6 episodes, making it season 1, holding back the next 6 episodes because there's so much coming out in 2022 that they're thinking of doing Andor for 6 episodes, the Kenobi series, Bad Batch, which they're saying is going to be another 16 episodes or so, and Mandalorian season 3, all by the time we get through to the end of December. So putting a 12 episode Andor would not work, is what they were saying. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have heard that. And she said also, to go along with that, that now they're looking to either bookend and start Kenobi on May 4th or end it on May 4th. So if it's a 6 episode season, one or the other, either have such a huge end finale that it needs to go on May 4th or starting it off on May 4th. She didn't have definites, but have you guys heard anything like this at all? Alfie, I see your hand up. Go ahead, man.
I brought up the Andor on an older episode of our show. There's actually some pretty strong evidence to that. There was a trade publication for I can't remember. It's like a Wall Street Journal for movies, basically. In something really in the industry, and it had listed what was shooting when, and Andor season 3 was on there.
Okay.
Which doesn't make sense at the time because there's not been an Andor season 2, but that kind of plays into that.
Okay, good. Well, again, not trying to guess and know what's going on, and it just all these machinations of putting all this together is just crazy. So, Nick, did you have something?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is I would be okay with that because I do like dragging it out a little bit. I didn't get a chance to be on the show last week when we talked Boba, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to listen yet to last week's. I would be okay with them splitting it as long as they pay it off. I felt like with the first episode of Boba, it was so short that it was so good, but it was so short by the time it ended, I was like, oh, I'm just getting into this. Like, I would hate for them to do that with Andor, where it's like, it's a 30-minute episode where you're like just dipping your feet in, and then all of a sudden it's over and it's done. It's like, guess what? You get to wait another year and a half till we release season 2, which, oh, by the way, we've already finished and it's done and it's just sitting on somebody's computer and we're waiting until the right time to drop it. That would be disappointing to me.
Yeah. It's like Adam was talking about with the books. I mean, there's so many things that people are doing right now at Lucasfilm and trying to put it in its right place and make it come out at the right time and make it all make sense to go along with the literature that's going along with it and the toys that are going along with it and everything else, the marketing. I you know what? It's something I really like to see from the inside because I can't wrap my head around it, what all's going on there and how much they've got to move things around. So, but it is exciting. Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry, I'm curious, Adam, maybe you know this too, because one of the things I've been thinking about so when Hawkeye wrapped up, and so Hawkeye finishes, we start back in with Book of Boba right away. I had this thought the other day of, oh my gosh, I can't imagine being the person that's got to like map out when shows start, because now it's not like it's a Star Wars exclusive streaming service, but you have Marvel that's intertwined within that as well too. I guess the question I'm wondering too is like, where does Marvel play in with the release date of, like, what do you know about that's coming that could interfere with like Andor? Because the way they've done it, they've done the Wednesday and the Friday release, right? Is there anything coming that's big enough that you would go, yeah, I could see how that could throw a wrench in something Star Wars, because we don't want to oversaturate our streaming platform?
Honestly, I haven't really been paying attention to what's coming up and when. So I don't even know what's the next Marvel thing. There must be a Marvel thing coming right after this, isn't there? But I don't know what it is because they haven't advertised it.
Yeah, I don't remember what the next thing is on Marvel.
Moon Knight.
I know they had a
Is it-
She-Hulk, Moon Knight. There were a whole list of things for Marvel, but
Because the schedule seems to be that there's always one thing right after it. As soon as something ends, another thing begins, except we had a rare case that wasn't there. Was it Bad Batch and Loki were going at the same time, like a Wednesday, Friday, like you said. But other than that, it's when one thing ends, another thing begins. I've presumed that's partly because they haven't had, like, I'm not an avid watcher of streaming services. I just don't find I can't devote my attention to that. I'm always doing something on my computer, even if it's not productive. And I can't, like, when I was younger, I would watch things and do things at the same time. The older I get, I find I can't split my attention like that anymore. So I'm not an avid watcher. But I always hear that these other streaming services have lots and lots of new content that's going, all at the same time. And the complaint is that Disney at most only ever has one new thing at a time. And so some people are getting bored and frustrated and don't understand how Disney makes money off of this. So anyway, my understanding, just watching the pattern, is that things are scheduled on Disney like that because they don't have enough things to overlap and go at the same time. So they spread it out until they can build the infrastructure. And I think part of the big problem is getting enough Star Wars made, it seems. There doesn't seem to be any shortage of making Marvel content. They had such a big studio and so many collaborators in place. Lucasfilm is a completely different story, where they just starting from scratch and seem to have a really hard time, getting the locomotive, running at full speed. So I think Star Wars is kind of holding it up and keeping Disney from having more content for whatever reason.
Yep. I would assume so as well. I mean, you've got, like you said, Marvel was used to putting 3 movies out at a time, in a year. Star Wars is not set up that way. Brent always talks about it. Alfie, we joke around. They're under the same umbrella right now, but they're not truly the same company, even though they're owned by the same company. They do things differently than one versus the other. So, the last thing before we head into Boba Fett, and it's actually Boba Fett related. Joey sent me a text before the show, and he's watched Book of Boba Fett episode 2 already a handful of times. So he said, "Hey, can't be on the show. Something like you guys to hit on. It's been confirmed that Dave Filoni is writing episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett." He said, "Are we feeling Mando, Ahsoka, Clone Wars tie-ins in that one? That will be the episode before the finale." When Filoni's involved, it usually goes back to the Filoni verse, whether it is Ahsoka, whether it's Clone Wars or Rebels related. That this could open up a lot of different things. Any ideas, thoughts, or guesses as to what could be wrapped into that? I mean, I know we're only going to be talking about episode 2 tonight, but episode 6 will be the last one before the finale. Any thoughts from you guys on where that might be going with Dave Filoni in charge? Go ahead, D-Doc.
I'll go. I would love to see them take advantage of having Tamora Morrison there and give us some clones in real life, honestly. Even if it's a flashback and they maybe do that de-aging style stuff to him. But I would love to see that, like, even if it's just like him flashing back to like the cafeteria or something like that, where, I don't know. I really would like to see some clone troopers and maybe even some real clone armor. That's like kind of my dream, is to see clones that are not CGI'd.
Yeah.
I like that. Adam, Nick, or Alfie, any thoughts on the Filoni episode 6?
I think it's going to be like a. Oh, go ahead, Adam.
Oh, okay. Adam, go
Oh,
first.
sorry. Sorry, I think there's a lag on my end. I've got slow secondary internet connection this week. Yeah, I like his idea of the clone armor, since we've never seen that in live action. It was all CGI and the prequels, and that was actually something I had a hard time believing that they didn't make any physical clone armor. So when I was doing my Stormtrooper book, I tried and pried, and I couldn't get anybody to confirm that there was ever, even just for like, testing lighting or something, there just nobody could confirm that there was a single pair of real armor. So yeah, that'd be cool to see. And by the way, I tried to interview Tamora Morrison for my Stormtrooper book too, but I think it was his agent I had emailed. I can't remember, but they said he wasn't available, so we missed out on him. But we tried. Yeah, I if it's Filoni involved in writing, I'm gonna predict we're gonna see Captain Rex. Because we've seen Ahsoka, so I don't think we'll have a repeat, cameo until it's her show. So I'm going to put my money on seeing a Captain Rex in there.
Okay, all right. So we've got clones. We've got Captain Rex, Nick, or Alfie.
I'm looking for a Marvel mid-credit scene type of thing at the end of the series. Hey, we're going to need you to help us in our, quest to retake Mandalore. I need my war machine to my Captain America and Iron Man. But I would love to see the clones. I think the clones would make more sense than Ahsoka at this point. I really would like to see Captain Rex in a live action Echo with all the attachments and stuff. That would be pretty sweet.
Interesting. Go ahead, Nick.
I don't know about this, guys. I'm having a hard time imagining, from how much of a secondary character Boba was during The Mandalorian. I'm wondering, like, if Dave Filoni is directing this one, do you see a secondary character from Mandalorian that's brought into it, what's the Sasha Banks character? What does she play? Corsica Reeves.
Yep.
Like, do we see her come back or something like that? I think to see an Ahsoka would feel like a stretch. I feel like to see, Luke Skywalker would definitely be a stretch. Like, there's part of me that wonders, do they know that we're expecting something like this? And are they kind of like, we'll throw a loft cat at you, but that's going to be about it. Like, I'm with Alfie. Maybe I'm hoping that at the end of this whole Book of Boba thing, there's something that kind of whets your appetite to go like, hey, make sure you come back for, maybe it's Mandalorian season 3, maybe it's something else, but I'm sitting here racking my brain going, who could show up that would make sense? Like, even when we watched Mandalorian season 2, I was like, it's got to be Luke Skywalker, but I don't believe it's going to be, but it's got to be Luke Skywalker, right? Like, it couldn't be anybody else. I'm having a hard time with Book of Boba wondering who could they bring in that's, unless it's somebody like totally obscure, which could be Dave Filoni, somebody totally obscure, like IG-88 shows up somehow resurrected from the dead, and makes an appearance. But other than that, I don't know if it'll be this show.
You know what? I'll just sit back and cross my fingers, and in Filoni we trust, and he usually brings a bombshell, and we'll see where it goes. But we've rambled on a handful of different topics. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh yeah, if I can add, I think the Costa Reeves would be really interesting too, because I don't know if you guys have discussed it. She was asked on an interview, Sasha Banks. They were presuming that she would be in the next season. She said, "No, I'm not in the season," and that seemed very bizarre to me, that they would make all the effort of having her in season 2. And she's a known name, wrestler. She just kind of use her as a throwaway. So I think it would make a lot of sense, to get more for their money and actually give that character some weight by having her in this show, because she hasn't been asked about this show, I don't think. So, and I was surprised how free was saying, "Oh no, I'm not in it." So yeah, I think that'd be cool. And the other thing with Luke is they actually just I don't know if it's been officially revealed or not, but there's a toy in the kids line of toys that's got Luke and Grogu together with an X-wing. And I thought that was odd, to actually produce a toy for that when they're such, last season and at the very end. So that makes me think, are we gonna see them again? So to the end credit scene, I think that's an interesting possibility. Another little scene with them. I think it would be small, but it's possible.
Okay, Alfie, do you have something before we head into?
Yeah, just real
episode
quick,
2?
to agree with Adam about the Casca Reeves character. It is really odd that she says she's not in Mandalorian season 3 when the guy who played, is it Wolf?
Wolf or Fox? Fox or
Something,
Wolf? Yeah.
something like that. He said you would learn why he wasn't in the last episode in the next season.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that really implies that he's going to be in the season 3.
Right.
Okay. Well, you guys are bringing some good points there. I did not know he had said that, but that's interesting. I
Yeah.
did hear that interview with Sasha Banks, and she said she wasn't in Mandalorian season 3, but you're right. That doesn't mean she's not in this. So, Taylor, here we go. We got Tribes of Tatooine, Book of Boba Fett, episode 2. I'll just tell you guys, this was, it was a longer episode. There were plenty of times we thought, okay, the episode's over, but nope, it went on to another section or segment. I will say it had action, it had drama, it had a train chase. I mean, anytime you can do a train scene, that's a good thing. It had some weird flippy dippy psychedelic scenes, all of the above, and I loved every second of it. I thought this was a great episode. There was so much to take in. I'll like I said, I don't ever like to go step by step on this. So if there's anything that you guys want to start with and hit on, let's go and let's rock and roll it, and then we'll just hit points at a time throughout the show. I will start with the beginning when Fennec Shan is walking through with the guy from the Nightwind group under the big gate in Jabba's palace. That was awesome. Just made me feel like it was Return of the Jedi all over again.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys take the floor. Anything that stood out to you that you want to hit on to start with, just point and let me know. Nick.
You know what? You said at the beginning, it's a longer episode, and I know I talked to it a little bit, but the internal relief when I flipped it on Wednesday and I saw that it was a 58-minute episode, I breathed a sigh of relief. For me, the first episode was so good, but Alfie said it before, even in our text group, this is such a different show than The Mandalorian. And I almost needed more time to sit with it and go oh, this is awesome. And this is really cool. And this is the trippiest, weirdest, it's like we're doing drugs in the Tatooine desert. That's what this is. And that's okay. I just need a minute to breathe with it, sit with it. That to me was the first and foremost. Before I even watched it, I went, this is going to be good. I know it right here.
Yes. I going back to another throwback, the dropping of the Nightwind guy down into the Rancor pit was so well done, and it looked so aesthetically pleasing to the eye to have the view from up top, what they were seeing, as well as his view down there. I thought that was well done. And I love the little one-liners that Fennec Shan keeps having. She keeps just dropping little one-liners in. So just great little back and forth with her and Boba there. Give me a next one you want to talk about. Another bullet point you guys want to hit.
I'll bring up from what Twitter is telling me, the female Tuscan Raider. I mean, she is freaking awesome, because everyone's saying the one with the long black cloth is female, and I guess she's the queen of that tribe. Alfie, do you know that? Do you think she's the queen or something?
I don't know, man. This whole series has really changed the whole dynamic of Tuscan Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think anymore about it, but I love every second of it.
Well, and Brent brought it up last week. He felt like she was very much an Enfys Nest kind of character. And I started buying in on that. And then I will tell you, I did steal something. I listened to Rebel Force Radio today, and some caller called in and said, I feel like that's Fennec Shand in that outfit before she becomes Fennec Shand. And I was like, what? That just blew me away. But I thought, man, how many different rabbit holes could we go down with that one character right there? I mean, I have no idea what to expect from that character if they ever show their face or anything like that at all. But great character. Look forward to them making the 6-inch black series of that character right there for sure. So yeah, tons of avenues we go. Nick.
Yeah.
You know what, Joe? One of my favorite parts of this episode was when they go see the mayor of Mos Espa.
Yes.
And they walk in, and even the again, just a little different, where you see Boba Fett's character really coming through, right? Where he goes, who is it? You know damn well who it is. Like stuff like that. Like I chuckle out loud because I go like, that's the Boba Fett that I've always known was there, but that you've just never really seen on screen, because all you get is Darth Vader saying no disintegrations, right? But to actually see him come in, you know damn well who it is. Like that to me is just such good writing. So awesome. It's very like spaghetti Western almost, like just so fun to me.
Did anybody else like the weird desk clerk at the mayor's office? I'm like, that seemed very weird.
So out of place.
So out of place.
Yeah.
Like, is that 1975? Just a guy working at the front desk, and then you go right into there, and then to have that great vocalizer or translator on the Ithorian was great. You could hear the small rumble of their voice, and then right into the translator. I mean, we'd seen it on, I think, Rebels. They'd done it on Star Wars Rebels with a character. But I thought that was really well done in there. Anybody thought on those, how they brought the Nightwind person in front of the mayor, and all of a sudden they shoot him down dead right there in front? Were they hiding the ties that were there, or did they really want them out as a criminal? Any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Alfie.
I really liked the whole scene between the mayor and Boba Fett. It was a real test of size between the two of them. Yeah, he can disintegrate the mayor, whatever, but the mayor's been in the game a long time.
Yeah.
So he's kind of talking out of the side of his mouth the whole time about, I can kind of help you if you listen to me. You're not going to trust me, and I'm not going to trust you, but this is how the game works. Let me shoot you the rules. And yeah, it was kind of odd for them to just drop that guy right in front of them. Again, a little display of, this is what I could do. I could do this right now, but I don't want to. And then to lead right into that scene with the Hutts. I mean, how far have we come, from the special editions to this moment right here?
It was breathtaking, Alfie. That was
remarkable.
One of my favorite parts, especially where you get the Hutts in the Clone Wars, that, like you get Zero the Hutt. It's just kind of insufferable sometimes. And to see these two twin Hutts together was so cool. And we'll get into more of it, but that to me might be my favorite part of this whole episode. Watching just the political maneuvering. Maybe I'm a child of the prequels, whatever, but watching the political maneuvering of, Hutt space and seeing these Hutts, and then the muscle they bring in is just amazing.
Well, as we head to that, and I'll just throw this out there. I had not paid attention to Jennifer Beals' name of her character last week, but to find out it was Garsa Fwip. What a name, Garsa Fwip, and her place is called Garsa's Sanctuary. I loved all the old background characters from the original trilogy, just done up better throughout the cantina in there. They were so well done. And anytime you can add more Jennifer Beals, I say let's go ahead and do that. I'm all for that. But D-Doc, Adam, as we get ready to go, talk about those Hutts and things related to that. Anything so far in the episode that catches your eye or that we haven't hit on? Do you guys want to hit?
Well, I like Pikes. So I was excited to see those aliens in here. I like that these are truer to the animated version than the one that we got in Solo.
Yeah.
These are a little more accurate, and we got to they pop the mask off, so we get to see underneath. Still though, they lack that exotic quality that they have in the Clone Wars in the animated style. For my taste, they've humanized them a little bit too much, because they've got I think they've got like 3 fingers or something. Right. I know their fingers are different, their leg anatomy is different, their heads are bigger and animated. So I'd like to see them get a little more flamboyant in the design. I think part of that might be just a practical issue of having humans playing the character. It might be difficult to do that. It's probably something you'd have to do in digital, but I like that they did a second try at those, and that droid doing the train was really cool to have him jump out of the train and run away. That was that was a lot of attention to detail that they didn't have to do. I mean, I'm sure it cost a lot of money to do that extra animation of him. He could have just shot him and blew him up in there or pushed him aside or something. But to add that little extra, that was very authentic to something George Lucas would have done. Like having that I forget what those creatures are called, that toad thing, burrow up and run off.
Yeah.
When the Tuscans are all together. That was another little, extra thing. Maybe that was the episode prior. I can't remember.
It was this one.
But I like, I like these little extra things that they don't have to do, but they do. That's something George did. He had, little extra shots, before and after a scene of creatures, doing stuff. So it's cool to see that thrown in and for them to spend the budget on it.
And I really felt like that droid who was driving the train reminded me so much of either one of the pod racers or a mixture. When it took off running, it made me almost feel like General Grievous, the way it ran off. Like it, it had that feel of Grievous when he'd get on all 4. So I'm looking forward to. I think the Pikes coming in definitely plays into everywhere this is going with this. We started talking about it a little bit. D-Doc, I meant to hit you. Go ahead. We've kind of gone around the room.
No, I was just going to even double up on what Adam was talking about with that droid. The animation of his hands turning those knobs and everything. It's just like, I was watching it, and my one buddy he's a Star Wars fan, but he's not like diehard live Star Wars fan. And I'm like, do you understand the budget they probably put into this? This is episode 2. And like, this is what we're getting. Like, we're going to be in for so much. I'm like, you just got to ride. I know episode 1, for like the person who likes Star Wars, maybe didn't give you everything you wanted. When you expect Boba Fett, you want to get all this action and everything.
Right.
But like you guys have said in the text, we're world building right now. And it's like, I thought to myself last night, I'm like, I'm going to walk out of this series like with Tuscan Raiders being like one of my favorite freaking Star Wars like characters. And I always liked them, but just to see the detail they're putting into it, they're putting love into it. So I'm really excited about it.
Well,
I can't get their sound, that they make out of my head. Like I hear it nonstop after this show.
Same.
No, you're right. Once it's in there, it gets stuck. So you guys talked about it. The twin Hutts have laid claim to Jabba's, territory, business, what have you. Again, like you said, going from the Star Wars Special Edition to this and seeing the difference of what the Hutts look like now and what they do artwork compared to then is huge. I love that Fennec said, hey, they're Hutts. We'd have to get permission to kill them. She's already thinking, the next step, right? She seems to always want to kill, and she's always thinking about the next step. And then I think one of the things, and I'm sorry if I'm doing the feedback, I think my mic might be making some noise. I apologize. But the Black Chrysanthemum, the Wookiee, that when he came around that corner, and I had seen him in the comic because he had interaction with Boba Fett. He had interaction with Dr. Aphra. Seeing that, I thought exactly what we always talk about. Filoni and Favreau and their group always says, hey, we might not give you the A. We're not going to put Jabba the Hutt, Darth Vader, and Luke Skywalker in every episode, but hey, here's this. Here's some Hutts. And oh, by the way, here's this cool bounty hunter that people in the comics have seen who's had interaction with Fett, Vader, Dr. Aphra, which makes me think we might see her still in this. But you guys, before we get to the Tuscan part of the show, any last thoughts on that bounty hunter, the Hutts, anything like that? Nick, go first, and Alfie.
That was one of the most fun parts for me. And again, I think it's the beauty of what they're doing with shows like Mandalorian and with Boba Fett, where they have a chance to pay off for the people that like us, right? That like watch everything and read all the comics and buy stuff that we probably shouldn't buy. Like to pay that off and to show that, and yet do it in a way where like they didn't name him. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't name him.
No.
And if you're a casual Star Wars fan, you watch it and you go, whoa, cool. A tough looking bounty hunter Wookiee. That's cool. I don't know who that is.
Yep.
And like to be able to play both those fields to me is so fun. And it's like going to see the Spider-Man movie tonight, right? Like there's so many little things that like, if you've watched other movies, you're like, that's freaking awesome. And if you haven't, it's not a big deal because you still think it's awesome because it's cool. So I love any chance that they can do stuff like that. I think it's.
Yep. Alfie, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Just with this character, I had to stop and think, this is what I love about this series so far. We've got a new story. We got original characters from the original trilogy. We're dropping in EU characters. We're paying homage to, really obscure deleted scenes from A New Hope.
Yep.
And we're throwing in some Ralph McQuarrie concept art.
Yep.
I mean, how much more can you pack into an episode? And then they say, well, hey, we're not done there. We're going to, this is Oliver Stone's The Doors movie here. We're going to take some mescaline and go out in the desert.
Yes.
It's hard to believe how far we've come in Star Wars and the content that we're getting. Well, now, I really don't understand the hangups that people have when there is so much of this.
I think we, as a group, took Brent's advice on this one and said, we're going to go in this with no expectations and just let it happen. And so everything's a surprise, or everything seems to be like a good thing instead of having an expectation of what we should have. Originally when this was named as a possible movie, which I'm glad it's not a movie now, Boba Fett, I'm glad it's a series. I think we all agree with that. But, you're thinking Boba Fett movie, okay, I'm going to get 2 hours of him being a BA gunslinger bounty hunter, right? That's the movie. There you go. And here we are talking about exactly like you said, all these different things in a 50+ minute second episode of a series. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Was anybody else shocked when you saw a train scooting down the desert in Tatooine? I mean, I'm sitting there going, oh, is this a crate dragon that they're all waiting for the first time? I'm like, they're going to go after a crate dragon. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then I'm like, is it a passenger train? And these people are just protecting against Tuscan Raiders. And then you figure it out. Okay, they wouldn't be this well armed, and they're doing something here, right? So let's jump into the Tuscan Raider side of things. I loved the train. I loved the sign language. I loved how Boba had become part of the group. I also loved the throwback of the funeral pyre, like the Jawas in A New Hope with the Tuscan Raiders there. Adam, I definitely wanted you on this episode because as we get into the Tuscan side of things, I felt like with your background and seeing different cultures that you've seen and different traditions around the world, these traditions and culture things that are going on with the Raiders, Tuscan Raiders, I thought would fit very well into something where you could say, yeah, I mean, this makes sense. I mean, this is a band of people that are so strictly relying on each other out in the desert, right? So I'll just open up the floor. Any of the stuff with the Tuscan era, Alfie, you hit on, we can talk about Tashi Station, uh, Cammy and Fixer, whatever, but floor's open. Hit me with one of your best shots, guys. Pat Benatar style here of the Tuscan part of things. Alfie, start us.
The train scene really, just like Adam was saying earlier about the little details with the creatures being something that George Lucas would do. The first episode, and then especially this train sequence, was just like ripped right out of Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
And that is such a George Lucas like influence to pay homage to. That just really hit me because it's like these guys know where Star Wars came from.
I like it. D-Doc, Adam, Nick, go ahead, D-Doc.
Did it crush anyone else's souls when you saw the banthas get taken out with those first shots? I was just like, no. Yeah, like, because I think they had, it was funny because from watching it with my buddy the second time last night, he had the reaction I had. When it's coming in, you're looking at it and you're like, that's some kind of sand creature coming in. It's got to be. And then next thing you know, boom, shots are fired. Tuscans start getting taken out. Banthas are getting hit. Let's go hide behind this freaking dead bantha. And like, Boba's like, what the hell is going on? It was like really intense, honestly.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a surprise situation.
Agreed. Nick.
Sorry. You know what? One of my favorite parts of the Tuscan storyline was when he has this psychedelic moment. The lizard jumps in his nose, which we can unpack all of that. But he goes and he finds this piece of wood.
Yeah.
And they build the gaffy stick for him. To me, that was like, how are you taking, these creatures that when you watch the original trilogy, they're like the bane of your existence. And yet you're humanizing, even if you watch the prequels, right? Like you hate the Tuscan Raiders. You watch Anakin kill him and you're like, well, they had it coming because you killed the wife or you killed the mom of, the most powerful Jedi ever. But then they take it and they build out these deep characters that have all this history of building out the gaffy stick and how you do it. And to me, that was one of the coolest moments. It was like, we've talked about it with The Mandalorian, like these montage scenes where you see them like repairing the Razor Crest or, doing something like that. And to me, I thought it was just another brilliant, cool buy-in scene. Now that you've watched Mandalorian season 2 and you watch Boba Fett, I think it's in episode 6 of season 2, just destroy stormtroopers with that. And he's like smashing their helmets into pieces. And you're like, oh, he made that out of some sort of sacred ceremony with the Tuscans. To me, it's just like, it's like The Last Samurai. If you've seen that movie with Tom Cruise, where it's like, we're adopted into this culture that was my enemy. And now they've taken me in and now we're building samurai swords, like all this stuff. I think it's genius of them to do this.
You take that and then you throw in Ralph McQuarrie concept art where they're basically saying, hey, we're going to show you that the armor in the Mandalorian, here's the equal to that in the Tuscan Raider civilization.
Yes.
In the Ralph McQuarrie art. So Adam, your thoughts on some of those things we just unpacked right there.
Yeah, I like that they've gone with a different tribe of Tuscans here, and that they've indicated that the Tatooine is covered or is populated by different tribes. I think in The Mandalorian, I started to get just a little bit, tinges of boredom with the monotonous design of, the Tuscans, everyone being the same, after we saw the episode 1 of last season where they team up to fight the Krayt Dragon. And we had another episode where there's a couple of them. So I'm glad to see a new tribe with a new look, which hopefully means lots of action figures. And I hope that in the future they will play this up. I hope that, the next time we see another group, they will be a different style, yet as well. Because living in Vietnam and Cambodia, I was very interested in all the tribes. I would go, on exploring little personal adventures, and I'd just pick a spot on the map where I'd never been, and I'd go to try to visit the different villages, the different tribes, and I would collect the baskets. There were two things I liked, well, several things I liked to collect. The baskets they'd wear on their backs when they'd go out into the jungle to like scavenge things. And I would collect the big jars of rice wine that they made, which I like to drink. And I would collect their musical instruments also. And I wanted to collect their clothing, but I could never find anybody with clothing that they wanted to sell. The other stuff was easier. But the reason why I like these things was there were like, I think there was officially like 80 tribes in Vietnam, but those were just the official ones. In reality, it was probably a couple hundred different tribes, mostly in the mountains. But each one, they all wore baskets on their back, but each one had a different weaving pattern, where they do ornamental things just in the weaving and the design of the basket. Each tribe had a different style of clothing. Each tribe, their musical instruments were a little bit different. Their rice wine tasted different. They'd use different herbs mixed in. So there's all these fine little differences. So they've started with that with these, but I'd like to see even more, and that takes budget, and time to pay attention to those details. But I know in the prequels, George Lucas was conscious of that and did make an effort with every culture, to all these minor details with props and costumes. The costumes were amazing in the prequels. So I hope they will continue down that road. Even to where they built the banthy, what do you call it? The gaffy stick. Yeah. In the real world, every tribe would have a different style to their stick. They would maybe have different ends, or we saw how they were carving. He was carving the pattern at the round thing there, which that was great. That I thought that they were being authentic and detailed. But every tribe should have a different, different pattern, different design. So I hope they go that creative with future incarnations of these guys.
I'm beginning to think that as much as Boba Fett wants to be a crime lord and bring the crime families together, I think in his back pocket, he might be the guy who brings all the different Tuscan tribes together to have as his go-to. They're going to be the people running Tatooine for him. Like he said, these are people who were there originally. So to have them be his right-hand men on that or be a part of that. So I'll jump right into the Cammy Fixer Tashi Station part of it. Alfie, you've been talking about it for a while, that they were going to bring back those deleted characters from the New Hope original trilogy, episode. And sure enough, there they were. And I will bring this up. Willie Harms, one of our great listeners and followers, sent me a direct message, and he said, a while back I had sent you a message talking about, and I think Steve Lawson and I talked about this, about apparel in Star Wars and apparel in the Star Wars shows. And he said, I wonder if we're going to see any more real world kind of apparel. And he said, sure enough, we see the Nikto miners basically looking like the Sons of Anarchy. They looked like, they had vests on and they look like bikers, right? And on their swoop riders. So go ahead, Alfie.
If you pay really close attention to their cuts, they have it's almost identical to a Grogu on the back of his jacket.
No way.
Yeah.
You go frame by frame on this, don't you?
Sometimes.
Do these guys ever sleep? Like, man, that's amazing. Like, to be able to put that kind of detail in, that's something else.
I mean, it's a blink. You have to know to look for it, because there's only one scene really where the main guy turns around and is bent over to where you can see the back of his cut.
Well, I'll have to go back and look at that. But I
And
thought
then-
it was well done to put all that together. To put
Yeah,
those
the
different-
attention of detail to go back to a deleted scene and remake Tashi Station, you know, to the T like that. That was pretty amazing.
I know people talk a lot about humor in Star Wars, and there's been humor that hits, and there's been humor that doesn't hit. But I really enjoyed Boba Fett trying to train the Tuscan Raiders on the swoops. I mean, not only just going in reverse, but the pratfalls and everything else. I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was some really well placed humor that wasn't over the top, but it hit its mark right there.
I
So
agree. And D-Doc, you got to talk about the swoops.
What's that? Sorry, I had to run away for a second.
Oh, you're fine. D-Doc, you got to talk about the speeder bikes and
Oh
what
my
you pointed
God.
out.
They reminded me of Shadows of the Empire, the N64 game. And there was one level on it where I could never beat it as a kid, but I just
Hated that
remember-
level.
Yeah. And the only way I ever got to play that level was if I went to one of my friends' house who was able to beat IG-88 because I could never freaking beat him. I know all the
Impossible.
other levels from friends who could beat him. I still can't beat him to this day. I'll turn on my N64 still. I'll do the train level, which that reminded me of the train in this episode as well, because Shadows of the Empire had that level where you had to jump train to train. I don't know. I catch some Shadows vibes, and you guys know that a lot better than me, but I don't know. I just feel something about that era in that N64 game. The reason I know it, I just catch a feel from that in this show.
I definitely do. Nick, did you have some? I saw you. Or you
Well,
just point at that.
the continuity wouldn't make sense, but at the same point, now that they've deemed everything legends, part of me wants to know, like, could we get we got it in Bad Batch where you saw Darth Maul working with the syndicates. And, he was with I can't remember what their species was called, but the Prince Zizor.
Yeah. The
Gosh, why
Faline.
can't Black Sun, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe Faline. Yeah.
Well, Faline is the species, but Black Sun.
That's it.
And
What
and
I'm
that's-
wondering,
yeah.
could there be a payoff in this if we're writing new canon now, where you get a Prince Zizor cameo? Because I agree with you, D-Doc. I was watching it
Ooh.
going, gosh, I remember playing this game where you're flying around on these swoop bikes on Tatooine and how much fun that was. How much are they trying to recreate and rewrite some of this stuff? Maybe that's too much of a stretch, but I would love to see something like that too, where you see these crime syndicates come back and you get this Prince Zizor character that comes back that's now pissed that Boba Fett's sitting on the throne of Bib Fortuna.
Look, you've got a full plethora of things to choose from, and that Shadows of the Empire is one of the ones that I think you can pluck things right out of. Go ahead, Alfie.
To follow up to Nick, we're already doing flashbacks with Boba Fett. Why couldn't he flash back to that, Shadows of the Empire time when he's trying to get Solo to Jabba the Hutt? I mean, this is a perfect place to start building on that story. And I would love, bringing up Prince Zizor, however you say it, for there to be like the end of Solo payoff to this series where you find out that maybe Boba's working for somebody else. Once he retakes Tatooine and has it stable, kind of that Darth Maul moment in Solo. Like, hey, there's just a little bit more. You're going to want to watch it in season 2.
Let's jump to, okay, we got the train stopped after Boba trained them on the swoops. The very cool Tuscan Raider was awesome in helping him stop that. We had the great droid who was the engineer. Like Adam said, seeing the pikes and having them take their mask off and everything, very cool. I liked that all that was going on. I loved Boba's comments where the sands are no longer free. There's a toll to be paid to pass. So now the Tuscan Raiders are benefiting, for being those, people who take care of that land there and monitor it. So I think there's a lot of things that could happen with this, with that happening and the Tuscan Raiders being involved. One thing that stood out to me is small, but I didn't know what to call these things in the last episode. But the black melons and Boba Fett saying you would survive on their milk, instead of having water. Did that blow you guys away that it's milk in there and that they're black melons that are under the sand? Yes, no.
Yeah, when I saw those, I thought, are those something that I'm supposed to know what these are already? Like, have these been seen in the past in Star Wars? So, like, have they been in Star
In The
Wars
Mandalorian.
previously?
Yeah.
See, I don't even remember seeing them in Mando, which is funny.
In season 2, in that first episode,
The
when
crate
he
one.
gives it to Cobb Vanth,
Yep.
and Cobb Vanth takes it and kind of like spits it, right? Because he thinks it's gross. Now, here's my only continuity thing. In the first episode of Book of Boba, remember when he goes out with the Tuscan kid and the Tuscan kid goes to hit him and he catches the stick and he's like, I need some water. Like he's essentially saying it's water, but then they say it's milk. Not that it really matters because who cares? But at the same point,
They also called the train a long speeder. It could just be a translation thing.
Adam, with you again with your background, I think you hit a key point on the baskets and the instruments for the different tribes. You've seen so many things and so many different things eaten in your life in the Far East. Seeing those people dig those things out from under the ground, pop them open, and drink the milk out of them. Have you seen some weird things like that before, where people survive in those tribes off of?
I've not personally seen anything like water like that, but for moisture. But I've definitely seen a lot of strange things eaten, and I've eaten them myself. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, though, was going out with my friends into the countryside and them showing me which plants to eat, because being a foreigner, I had no idea, looking at things, whether it was poisonous or safe. And some of the fruits were really strange. Like there are these tiny little orange spheres on vines, and they almost like they were so bright they glowed, but they were inside of like this basket that looked like a spider web. And my friend showed it to me, and it turns out I think it's a kind of passion fruit, but just really, really tiny. There were other things that looked like tiny bell peppers, and I think they must be related to a persimmon, but they were bright red and they looked like they would have been poisonous. But all these different things, when my friends would catch toads, actually, in rainy season. All the toads would come out and run, and the toads were weird. They'd walk on their four legs like a crab. They didn't jump, and they just throw them all in a pot and boil them, and they just take them out, and they're when they're cooked, they're all bloated like a ball, with little tiny little feet sticking out of this round ball, and they just make a slit, pull the stomach out, and then they eat the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'd see all these kind of weird stuff, and some of it was gross, some of it was disgusting, but some of it turned out to be good. Like I really enjoyed eating frogs, for one thing. Grilled frogs are one of my favorite things now. So yeah, the tribes do some weird stuff, and they eat some revolting stuff sometimes. So that's very realistic, and I appreciate that. When I used to write stories for StarWars.com, it was like imagining a day on Tatooine, or imagining a day on Andor, or different things like that. And I kind of skirted. See, we weren't allowed to make up canon stories for the website, but I kind of skirted around it by making it a theoretical. But I would try to work in these kinds of things, these kinds of experiences, like eating weird, gross stuff. I think they've changed it since, but I think on my Andor story, I I had the reader eating like a barbecued rat, because rat's something that I had eaten, when I was in Vietnam. And I described that it tasting of burnt hair and a little bit of feces, because they hadn't cleaned the intestinal tract out well enough. So I got the only mention of feces on the StarWars.com website. I think it's been since scrubbed. But yeah, so fun stuff like that. I like the authenticity of having some gross things, because the real world's not all politically correct. There's sometimes other cultures do stuff, and it may on the one hand seem gross because we're not used to it, but on the other hand it may be gross, and we may do some gross things too. That's just the way the world is. The world's a colorful place.
I like you said, they mix that in to where you can see it and feel the culture in some things like this. Let's get to probably the part that everybody's like, what just happened here? When he gives him the gift of the lizard, and the lizard goes up his nose, and then he goes on his journey, and we've already talked about him making his gaffy stick, but the journey and becoming part of the tribe and all that, and then the lizard pops back out of his nose. I like when he goes, "Oh, I think I might have swallowed it, little bugger." Just such good story there, and it's not something like I watched it and I was like, did that just happen? Did I just watch this in a Star Wars? So you guys, I'll let you run with it. Give me some of your thoughts on some of that in psychedelic kind of journey kind of part right there.
One thing that I thought of when seeing this, how do you know any of this has happened? He goes on this journey, and I get it, but it's like he just got out of the Sarlacc pit. He's covered in acid. He's wandering around the desert. Did any of this really happen? I know it did, but it's just a thought I had, But yeah, I loved this journey, all the symbolism of him coming out of the Sarlacc in that tree, finding the stick, making his way back. And this was like the fifth opportunity he had to escape, but he still came back to the tribe.
Yeah, I also thought one thing that kind of caught me in the feels was when he was having that flashback when he was looking out the window at Django's ship going. And, like for him, he's just a kid and his dad's like going to work kind of. Like, I know that was just like a short little clip, but I kind of like watching it a second time. I was like, he was just a kid and he didn't know whether what his dad was doing was bad or not. And he has the pain of witnessing his dad getting killed, and he can't let go of it. Like, it's definitely something that he just carries with him. And I think we're going to still see more of that throughout this series. Like they're letting you know that he can't get over the past, and with his dad dying, like that definitely hurt him.
Yep. Nick or Adam, any thoughts on the psychedelic tree lizard segment? Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, you know what? I thought twofold. D-Doc, I agree. I think that psychedelic scene is one of the most well put together, and yet at the same point, one of the things that I was watching going, what is happening right now? Like, what is like, even like how they're fading his face into different things. Like, it was just so well put together that I was like, this is so well put together that I don't even care that it doesn't really make sense what's happening. And then at the same point, the lizard going up the nose, one caught me off guard, and it gave me such Matrix vibes, where they put the little shrimp in his belly button. You know what I'm talking about? And this thing's gonna guide you, and we're gonna be able to see where you're at and what you're doing. And to me, it was again, what I appreciate about the show is that I don't feel like we've got anything in recent history that's made Star Wars weird. And this feels very weird. And yet I'm totally all about it. And so sure, they, put something inside of him, or, this little lizard, and then they call the lizard back, and the lizard jumps into the little, crate again and comes right back. I just thought it was a really cool like they didn't have to do that. They could have just like given him a drink or something like that. But to have this little lizard jump up into his nose, it's just that alien lore that I think we love. That I thought was really cool, especially for Tuscan Raiders.
Hmm.
Go
I
ahead,
have a
D-Doc.
question on it too. Do you know what the eyes were in the trees? Were those supposed to be Jawa eyes, or like that was one thing where like once all those little eyes started popping up, I'm like maybe it's like almost like flashbacks of Jawas in the shadows or whatever or something. Well, their eyes are yellow though, aren't they? Actually,
Tatooine
yellow or red?
Jawas are yellow eyes. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't. The red eyes I found interesting. And I guess that tree is just out there. Like it's a real tree because he got a branch from it. Is there one tree that you take this lizard and it leads you to that tree? You know?
A good question, Alfie.
In the Jedi Quest novels, Anakin, as a young boy, goes to a Tatooine tree. They're extremely rare, but they do exist on Tatooine.
That's the title of the show, by the way, the Tatooine tree. I love that right there. You know, I'm old enough to have watched Star Wars Wrath of Khan, and I will tell you, Nick's computer just died. So in case you guys see Nick disappeared. But Wrath of Khan, when they put the things in their ears,
Mhm.
so that freaked me out. But to see it go up the nose didn't freak me out as much, but it definitely was weird to see that happen right there. But I loved all of it. I love the storytelling of it all. I think it was again enough action, enough drama, enough psychedelic craziness, and then enough of becoming part of a family when he didn't have a family. He'd always been a loner, right? I mean, I know he tried to have a family during Clone Wars with the bounty hunters he was with, but come on, how much of a family can you have with those people? So this was his first time since his dad was gone that he was really building a family relationship with people. So I thought that was really cool. Go ahead, Alfie.
I loved him getting the robes and yes, becoming part of the tribe. You know, going through that sequence of movements with the gaffy stick, and then them all imitating, you know, one at a time until they're all doing it. And it really hit me, you know, kind of in the feels there because there's got to be a reason why he leaves and comes across Fennec Shan in the desert. So, you know, we all kind of want him to have this secret Tuscan army in the desert, you know, but man, is this deal with the Pikes going to go bad? Is there going to be something that, you know, yes, he's grounded now and has this family and has been accepted that makes him go back to kind of the ruthless Boba Fett? And I need to find my armor to, you know, get revenge on what was happened.
That is a very good question. I mean, this could be one of the deepest, darkest series or things we've had in Star Wars. Because it's definitely not a kid show. I mean, kids can enjoy it, but I don't think it's made. This is one where I could say, I'm not sure it's made for kids. There's not a Grogu waiting to happen.
Right.
Right.
Well,
This
if you
is-
think back to the Mandalorian episode when he was in the tragedy, he is so Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in that episode. Yes, he's a badass with the gaffy stick and then gets his armor and all that. And then is like, also, on the other hand, says, hey, let's just put our weapons down and have a chat. You know, let's talk this out. Then says, hey, I got my armor back, but I gave you my word, so I'll help you get the child back. It almost makes me thinking, you know, this story with the back to tank. Is he struggling between two Boba Fett's on which one he wants to be?
That's very good. I mean, in 6 minutes of the original trilogy, we had this thought, and then the expanded universe expanded on it, that he was cold-blooded, cutthroat, just badass as can be, and that he didn't have really a good side of him, right? Everything was just, it's all about credits, it's all about getting your bounty, end of story. But when Lucas reworked that in the prequels, right? and now the Mandalorian reworked it again. I think Disney, Favreau, Filoni, all Rodriguez, they're all taking the turn to say, we're making this guy the character we want to make him. And I think it can be a mixture of all of it. But you're right. I think he's split. I think he's a loner who wants a family, who has been living a certain lifestyle for a long time because his dad was killed right in front of him and he didn't have anything else except revenge in his heart. And now he's seeing things in a different way. So could go in any different way. And you're right, they could be setting up that his group gets slaughtered by the Pikes or by another Tuscan group or something, and he's on his own by the time Mando and Cobb Vanth show up. It could be any and all above. So any other random thoughts as I'm just spewing Star Wars stuff here? Anyone?
I have another random thought about this series.
Go
And
ahead.
it's not necessarily about this episode, but the flashbacks really get me thinking. Are him up until those episodes in The Mandalorian? Because the trailers show him getting his ship back. And in Mando, he said, I've been tracking you. And he knew Cobb Vanth had his armor. That's where Mando got it from. So could we see, almost, a day behind the Mandalorian in some of these flashbacks?
Sorry, I was
be.
stuck on mute. I think so. I mean, I'm
Oh,
open.
God. I was like, why isn't anybody talking?
I kept trying to click my mute and it wouldn't undo. I think all that's possible, and I'm open to all of it. I mean, if you say, hey, he is, he's a day behind him here when he's with Toro or whatever, and Fennec Shan, and then boom, the next day he's there, and boom, and he starts following him around. I'm open to all of it, and I want to see it all. And if it means we lead right up to that scene where he is meeting up with him and getting his armor back and all that, great. I think that would be a great way to finish it, but I'm open to all of it. I think this series in 2 episodes already, I've seen a lot of people complaining. I want this, I want that. You know what? We all want lots of things, but just let this one breathe, because I think there's a lot of potential in this show. And take it for what it's worth. Everybody wanted that Boba Fett movie years ago. Take this, because I think it's going to be better than what that movie would have ever.
Way better.
Yeah. So
This was some of the deepest, Star Wars we have ever seen, as far as getting into a culture and their beliefs and their practices and just building a world.
Yep.
We've always seen the Tuscan Raiders from, the outsider's perspective. Now we're seeing it from inside the tribe.
Yep. Agreed. Adam, any thoughts from you on some of this? Now that we've gone through all the whole episode, anything that you think it's leading us a certain way, or just random thoughts we didn't hit on from the episode?
Well, yeah, I was trying to think of, what's next now, because they kind of, they wrapped up this chapter of his time with the Tuscans. So, what's next? Are we going to now have the next episode focus on him in Mos Espa with the Hutts, or are we going to continue these flashbacks? I think we will have more. I don't know whether we'll have them in the next episode or not. Maybe. But yeah, I think the next move is to show his life with the Tuscans at peace. Kind of that, this show borrows from a lot of things. I've seen the Lawrence of Arabia comparisons, and Dances with Wolves comparisons. There's just a little bit of Wild West with that train in it. So yeah, if some of those things are models, you can look at the story where it goes next after the outsider, is at peace and equality with the tribe to see what happens next, maybe.
Every time I'm talking now, I forgot I put myself on mute. So a couple things popped up. One, will we see or will we hear anything about Omega in this series? Two, there's been filming of a de-aged Harrison Ford with things with Indiana Jones, but they're saying also could be with this. So we see anything of that. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was, and I've been thinking about this, Fennec Shan was in the Bad Batch. So Fennec Shan, she's older than in Star Wars time. She's older than Boba Fett. So are we going to, in the season 2 of Bad Batch, see a teenage Boba Fett at some point in time cross paths or meet up with Fennec Shan? Is Bad Batch and Boba and Mando all going to wrap in together with Omega, Boba, Fennec, all having some tie-ins in any of those? What are your guys' thoughts on any of that stuff as we move forward? Go ahead, Alf.
Well, like we talked before, it all revolves around Filoni, and he loves to tie it all together. And actually, in this episode, when Boba tells the Pikes that they can go, if you really listen, the music that is playing is Omega's theme from the Bad Batch. But
see, this is why you get silence after you say stuff sometimes, Alfie. It's because
Exactly.
it's like in it reminds me of the one episode of SpongeBob where it goes to Patrick's brain and just shows milk spilling. Because that's what happens when you say some of this stuff. I'm sitting there just like, damn, he's right.
Wow, I'm gonna go back and listen to that.
But yeah, I think so. Why couldn't you see Omega in this series at some point? Why not? It's Space Wizards. You can do pretty much anything.
It makes sense. It could make sense. And also, we're talking about a Boba Fett who wants and needs a family. Feels like he has it with the Tuscan Raiders, but could really have it by having his sister, who's, an exact, basically DNA clone of him and his father. I think that would be a very cool way to make this all come together.
And talking about Harrison Ford and all this stuff and who could be filming, who could be making, I was thinking about this today because that's just what I do is I think about Star Wars. You have Filoni and Favreau, in charge of all this, running all of this. Favreau made 2 movies, complete movies, choosing one human actor. How many people did that really take, to film that stuff? He's got the experience working with the volume. He can pretty much make anything he wants with a limited number of people in a limited amount of time.
I'll buy in on that. First of all, what were the 2 movies he did with one person?
The Lion King and The Jungle Book.
Oh, okay. I have not watched either one of those.
Well, they were all made using, the volume technology, and there's only one human actor in The Jungle Book.
Okay. Go ahead,
a note I had written down though with you bringing up that topic was pre-planning, and it makes me think: did Filoni have this plan with Boba getting that, the Tuscan Raiders giving him his robes and everything? Because that's what he shows up in Mando season 2. Like in Mando season 2, when he showed up, were they already just sitting there laughing like, we already know about this scene in Book of Boba Fett and you guys have no clue, because that's what gets me excited about this. Is it's like I feel like there's just such great leadership with these shows, and I feel like they care and they have a bigger picture view, and they're not, well, let's just retcon this and kind of try to figure that out. It's like, no, we have this plan and this is how we're going to do it.
Yep. I like it. Well, I'll tell you what, we've gone for about an hour and a half here. I don't want to keep you guys any longer. For a 50-minute show, we kind of hammered it out here and went through a lot of different things. I'll start with our good friend Adam. Adam, any closing thoughts? Any thoughts of things you want to hit on anything related to Star Wars, anything related going on with you or the Book of Boba Fett as we close things down?
Well, it's been fun with this show. We had Bad Batch last year. There wasn't a lot going on with I mean, when you compare the years past where there was nothing, it's a lot. My thought was when this show started, that first episode, wow, if little 8-year-old me had known that one day we finally could continue right where Return of the Jedi left off, and Jabba the Hutt's palace and all that, little 8-year-old me would just be peeing his pants. So that's exciting to put it in context. And like was said, seeing Fennec Shan walk through the front of the palace like C-3PO and R2-D2 did, that was pretty cool. That was one of my favorite parts of the episode right at the outset.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if they keep doing stuff like that, and I'm sure they will, they're gonna hit the sweet spot. I don't know what's do we have dates for the next Star Wars thing? Is that the Kenobi, or is that Andor? Do we even know?
We have not been officially told, have we, Alfie?
No, but Kenobi is on the, let's speculate some more. Kenobi has been moved to the coming soon page on Disney Plus, and everything that it's with comes out in the next month, I think.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so that might be next. Kenobi might be next. We don't know. We'll probably find out in the last episode of Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So, Adam, again, people can always track you down at on Twitter at author Adam Bray. What are some other ways that people can get with you to get either Marvel or Star Wars things you've written or worked on?
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's all the same handle at author Adam Bray. I have a website, adambray.com, that's more informational. If you want to order signed books, you can contact me through any of those venues. And if you'd like to see new editions of my books, a lot of my Star Wars and Marvel, they're all very much in need of updates. The Marvel Studios visual guide, the character encyclopedia, Ultimate Star Wars, Star Wars Visual Dictionary, all those books, they need an update, but there's nothing on the schedule as far as I know. So if you want new editions with this Boba Fett content and the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch and the rest of Rise of Skywalker and all that stuff, please, tweet out to DK Publishing. Tweet out to the Lucasfilm people on social media. I don't usually give his name out, but it is public. He's right there. Michael Seglain is the editorial director at Lucasfilm Publishing. So tweet to him, tweet to the DK handle. Anyone connected, say, hey, we want to see a new edition and we want to see Adam Bray on that book. Your tweets and your support do help, and they do make these books happen. Also buying them, they've got to know that they're still financially rewarding. So ideally get them from me. Do that.
We will definitely do that. I'll tell you, I've got some of your work, one signed, and some others that I had purchased at different places. I plan on personally tweeting those people right away because I want updated things on Rebels, Star Wars, Marvel, all those kind of things. You can count on that. Adam, we loved having you. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of the show. And We've talked about it. We
I've
want to
got a
do.
second head.
Oh my gosh! Hey, one of the cats. We talked to Gloss and Ryfin and a few other people. We definitely like this summer want to make it to where we get some of these Star Wars podcasters and authors and things together somewhere, and we want to make you included and have you do some book signings and things like that with a bunch of followers and listeners. I think that would be a blast. So we'll keep
Yeah,
working
that'd
on
be
that.
great.
And all of us will keep talking and we'll figure out a plan. But thank you again for coming. Alfie or D-Doc, any closing thoughts from you on Book of Boba Fett episode 2?
I'll go real quick. I'll just say that I think we're in for a wild ride with this show. I think for that to be episode 2 is freaking amazing. And also, I want to say, Joe, I'm really digging the glasses. I think you might need to stick around with those for the episodes. I don't know. I've gotten very used to seeing you wear those.
Well,
I like
you
the
know what?
vibes.
Count on them for the episodes. I will tell you, my son told me, he was like, different guys pull off different vibes. And he was like, because they're yellow, you could really wear them day or night around places. He said, I'm kind of feeling that's your thing. People will see you
You
and be
pull
like,
them
oh,
off well.
yeah, it's the yellow sunglasses guy. Yellow's my favorite color. That's why I went with them. I know that's weird. Sorry. I guess I need to get a Ray lightsaber so I can have that to match up with it. But thank you for the compliment. Diff. Hey, Diff, we want sunglasses for all of our hosts and guests. So listen up and get those to us. Alfie, any closing thoughts from you?
Listen here, Rocket Man. I love this show and I cannot wait to see where it goes. I've said it multiple times tonight. It's some of the best Star Wars content. And I hope the other series, continue to build on this kind of formula. Just these deep dives into things.
I agree.
And one last thing. We had talked in our chat about New Year's resolutions as Star Wars fans. And
Yes.
I have one, and I'm going to commit to this. I am no longer just going to pass by those Landos on the shelves.
You're going to buy them all up?
I'm not going to buy all of them. I'm at least going to buy one of each one of them.
Okay.
Because I cannot stand to see them, and they're never going to leave until they're bought.
Nope.
I saw 2 Landos, and oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on his name from Mandalorian. The little guy,
Quill?
the little guy who,
Oh, yeah.
Quill and 2 Landos. I'm just like,
they're just sitting there.
Yeah.
The Walmart
That's
by me, they
funny.
keep
They're-
getting more Landos. They have to be getting
Yeah,
other figures
yeah.
somewhere.
Go ahead, Adam.
Mine has 6 Black Series Landos and 2 or 3 vintage collections. So, and I own some already, but I suppose I could buy another opener or something.
You could do that. I will tell you guys, it's always been my pleasure and honor to host. Thank you guys. Thanks for putting up with my sinus stuff going on. I'm presently working on some t-shirt and hat stuff. I'll give updates on that. And if we can get them out and start selling those, I will let you know for Rule of the Galaxy. Heck, maybe we'll just do a Lando Black Series hanging on a peg as a t-shirt. That'll be good. That'll fly. But guys, thank you as always. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our followers. Chapter 118 in the books. Book of Boba Fett, episode 2, and the Tatooine tree is definitely the title. Follow us at Rule of the Galaxy SW on Twitter, Rule of the Galaxy SW at gmail.com. Just Rule of the Galaxy at Facebook and YouTube. And until next week, may the Force be with you.